it, first gear, send it. Yeah!
This video is dedicated to all things the Moab Hard Enduro, but there's some context that you're going to need to understand the series of unfortunate events that occurred throughout that week. So we're going to start off this video with the last couple of days of training before I left for Moab.
So right now, the space that your bike is on, the rear tire, if you try to go right now, it'll probably spin in the sand. And so you start getting a feel for where the front tire is going to end up. So like right on the edge of a rock. From your point of view, from your perspective, how far can you go up on an edge before it's going to start not grabbing anymore and fall off? Let's just see.
So to finish off my training, Nick and I are working on spatial awareness and being able to tackle ledges from a complete dead stop, which later in the race, definitely this was an insane skill that I'm really glad that we worked on, because this was tough. There's a lot of factors that go into this one.
Go a little farther. Little farther. Right about there. Now, as long as you cover the front and rear brake, it'll hold itself there. In fact, you could probably go another inch or two, but that's good. That's a good safe spot. So try to, you know, download what that feels like. You know, okay, and then hold yourself there. Now your rear tire is up on the edge back here, full grip. But you got to come forward, throw the weight back, and try to do the same thing we were doing before. Try to land both wheels on the ground right here. So weight's got to come forward, then you're going to pop the clutch.
I don't know why this was so freaky to me, because it's so low consequence, you know, but it was a lot to process all at once, and trying to operate the dirt bike without spinning the rear tires so that you can get maximum grip and not being able to touch very well. There's a lot happening.
Let's do that same thing again. Just with the front brake this time, and then put your foot on this side this time.
Now, I know it's good for me to practice both sides, but this psyched me out so much because I couldn't touch. Like, look at this. My foot's just going to float in midair for a while. I can't touch, so I had to balance. But this is what it's all about, you know. Hard Enduro is going to put us in weird and awkward and uncomfortable situations, so we got to get comfortable using the controls and operating the bike in these weird spots.
Almost. You got plenty of room up front here, Catherine. You can go another... Yep, little farther. There you go. Now from that position, even with your foot down, just leave with your foot down, and you're gonna come over my way. So you're gonna start real far forward, throw it back, and pop the clutch and try to lift it as high as you can. High as you can.
All right, that's a lot closer to what we're looking for. So then we went out to work this other skill where I got to keep my weight back to hold pressure. I was working on this in rocks in some of my other backyard training videos. This is a skill that I've been trying to work on while in motion. Now we're putting it into practice at a dead stop in this rock garden. And it's a lot trickier than it looks, you know? But this is an important thing to look at too, is notice how long it takes me to go the long way around the big obstacle versus this next clip. I actually make the hard move, if you will, the like pro move, the A move, whatever you want, versus the go around. It takes so much more time than if we had just committed to that first initial move, which is something I still struggle with to this day, is committing to the big moves. For me, it's a lot easier to pick my way through things, but this is something that I'm really trying to work on and really trying to develop, is this more aggression and commitment to tackling bigger and better obstacles. Here's that line again. Even though I didn't keep my feet on the pegs, I sure did make it a lot faster than that last clip. Then the last day before I left for Moab, I wanted to work on my race starts and a little bit of wheelies since I haven't worked on them in a while. And an issue arose while we were practicing. You'll notice there's a lot of white smoke coming out of the back of my bike, but when we were doing race starts especially, we noticed that the bike was running really rich. It was just sputtery on the top, and it was not like reaching its full potential. It wasn't that great. So we messed with the jetting a little bit. We messed with the idle and the air screws, and we got to the point where Sam and Nick rode it around, and they said it was pretty marginally better the way that I had jetted it. I basically jetted it for the next step of elevation, even though we were at, let's say we're at sea level, I jetted it for 3,000 to 6,000 feet. and it seemed to run pretty well, so I rejetted it for Moab, and then I took my tires off because it was time to give the bike some new shoes. We went with the Plus Grand Prix on the front, and then the Plus Tough One, the short knobs, on the rear tire. We also put a 13-tooth front sprocket and changed the seal on the X-Pro since it was leaking some oil, but speaking of leaking oil, when I moved the van to go load the bikes up, we noticed a nice little pool of transmission fluid, and go figure, the dealer didn't have any time or any of the shops around to get this fixed before I had to leave, so we just loaded up all the bikes. We got both of the bikes coming with us. I have the X-Trainer with as a parts bike, and also it's going to go home to Minnesota with my mom so that I can fly out for the Minnesota clinic coming up in May. And with that, I drive out to Moab super early in the morning in a van just packed with duct tape, zip ties, hopes, and dreams. If you really want to level up your road trip experience, get yourself a pair of driving slippers, because then when you're stuck in the snow and your shoes get all wet and freezing, you have a nice cozy pair of driving slippers. I was on my way out to meet Mariah Dugan, aka Gnar on Instagram, out at Sovereign, and I was running about 2 hours late, but we still managed to get out for a quick little jaunt. Dirtbikes! And the earth out here is incredible. Like, this terrain is insane. Now, Mariah and I were actually out here co-hosting a Dirtastic clinic this upcoming weekend before the Moab Hard Enduro, so I came out a week early to go ride out here with Mariah the whole time, scouting out locations and places to be, and the sunsets were just incredible out there because it was storming and snowing and hailing the first 2 days that we were out there. Oh, it was so cold, but it was truly incredible. Now, we only rode for about 2 hours out at Sovereign, but we didn't really have any issues, and we needed to go scout out Pritchett Canyon the next day, so we loaded everything up. But when we got there, we met Moto Mullet out there, and he noticed something catastrophically wrong with my bike, of course. That's right. At some point during our 2-hour ride out at Sovereign, I lost the circlip on my front sprocket, so it was just free floating on that thing. Now, luckily, Mad Bro was willing to pull a circlip off of one of their betas since they didn't have any there, and that allowed Mariah and I to get back out to Pritchett and finish our ride. And after we got everything all buttoned up, we did make it to the top of Pritchett Canyon. For some reason during this whole endeavor, I didn't think to actually bring any of my cameras with me, so I didn't have my Insta360 or the Ace Pro, like GoPro version of the Insta360 camera. I just had my phone, but Mariah and I made the best of it, and sometimes these types of rides are just best meant to be held in memories, because this definitely was one for the books. It rained while we were out at Pritchett Canyon, making everything just extra slimy and brutal, but it set us up in a really good space for our clinics that weekend, and we had such a killer group of ladies. On both days, they were both just crushers. However, something was very abundantly wrong with my X Pro. The more I rode it, the worse it got by a lot. And at first I thought it was jetting, so I've been messing with the jetting, and eventually I leaned this bike out to the max the JD jetting could go. It was set for like 10,000 plus feet, and we're only at 5,600 feet of elevation. And it's not just a matter of following plugs. I was literally spraying oil while I was riding. I also managed to use 700 milliliters of two-stroke oil in a singular tank of gas, 2.5 gallons. And I just had these rivers of oil gushing out of not just my exhaust, but my header pipe, to the extent that I was literally dripping on the rocks while I was riding and teaching. And so I called Mad Bro and I basically said, help, it's an emergency. I'm sure you get 10 of these a day, but help. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Bring it in. Let's check it out. Which was awesome, except for the fact that I had private lessons every day except for the day before the race. So I brought the bike in first thing Wednesday morning. They went through everything, and they said it was my TPS, and go figure, once they went to go plug a new one in, they said, hey, your old one wasn't plugged in all the way. So your oil injection system is basically just running wide open 24/7. So facepalm, remember all those part swapping diagnostics we did on the X-Trainer? So make sure to check that. if you ever unplug your TPS and you're having this issue, make sure to plug that back in. That sure made me feel kind of ridiculous, but hey, it happens to everyone, right? So they plugged it back in, they repacked my exhaust for me, they cleaned out the expansion pipe and the carburetor, and they gave me a new spark plug, a whole like runaround. They cleaned my air filter for me. They did a lot of stuff to get me set and squared away. I got the bike back 5 p.m. Wednesday night, but I still needed to put a new rear tire on, so that left me with the only opportunity to test ride this bike before the race at 7 a.m. Thursday morning. I put in about a 30-minute sprint on it. I felt pretty all right. Now with all these bike problems behind us, it's time to move to area BFE. I mean, we are done with the mechanicals, right? Right? Kellen seems to think so. I met with Kellen and Mariah, and we got together to go walk the track, see what's happening with this place, because there was some serious gnar that I was not expecting in the prologue or the amateur course for sure.
This way too. So you can come up here, and you can go this way. See, we came in here. We got here. We were like,
whoa.
But then it
Might be able to go around that way. Where she's at.
It's hard to tell, but this was a side hill section that was super janky. I didn't see anybody roll this in the actual prologue. We all walked it.
We're probably going to transfer pipe right here. Or skid plate. Or both.
What you think, Mariah?
I mean, we only walked like half of it. Gnarly stuff in there. I'm not super excited about the slabby zone.
Slab City.
Slab City is going to be hard. And there's going to be a lot of people stuck in there.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room to move in there.
No, there's really only like one main line choice through there. So even if somebody's stuck on it, there's not going to be much of an option to even get around. Unless you're like Cody Webb or Tristan Hart.
Yeah.
Might be some two-wheel drive action.
Honestly, best van shower to date. It worked phenomenally, 10 out of 10. The van was the right temperature, the water was the right temperature. I'm feeling refreshed, ready to rock tomorrow. Mariah and I walked the track. There were definitely some gnarly spots, some really gnarly spots. I didn't get them on video because I was too worried about not falling on my face, and I did a couple times while trying to walk it. I'm trying not to stress too much about it, you know, like just trying to keep a cool head. Now I'm going to make my dinner, and I'm going to watch Miracle tonight for the ultimate motivation of you can do it even if you're the underdog.
I'm gonna seal it. It would be great if they would.
Shout out to my mom for driving all the way down to Moab to come hang out with me. She joined me in the van for movie night with some pretzels, just like old times. And of course, the sky was doing beautiful things, but it was time to go to bed and get psyched for tomorrow. So it's the morning, and I'm out running the start line. Start is like right there, and then we have to make a sharp turn. This is hard illustrating for the camera. We start right there, super sharp turn right away. We come down this, up this janky ledge right here, up through all these rocks, and we ride our chariots into the distance. It's really brisk this morning. I can't feel my fingers, but it's gonna be hot, I can tell. There's no free riding out here or like a designated practice area, so I don't know how I'm gonna get my arm pump out of the way, but I'll just do what all the other pros are doing, figure out where the heck they go. Just try and get the arm pump out of the way. Oh, my fingers hurt, it's so cold. Anyway, off and away we go. Turns out there was zero tolerance for riding out there, so I just got a couple of clutch pops in the parking lot and a couple of figure eights before I started the race. Now, disclaimer, for the rest of this race, unfortunately I snapped my Insta360 camera literally on the first obstacle of this race of the qualifier, so this is pretty much all you get is GoPro footage of everybody else. So we're going to start off in the first bottleneck. I've got Griffin behind me, and then you're actually watching the video point of view from Jesse Ubermuff. Sorry, Jesse, I don't know how to say your last name, but he was kind enough to give me a push. These bottlenecks are insane because all of these rocks, we're all like fully capable of riding over them, but people are so target fixated on needing to go forward and not letting the person next to me get in front of me that we just put ourselves in the worst possible situations. And it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, unless you shove your way in there, you're not going anywhere. But just like this, like Jesse needed to go forward and launched his bike right into me. You can see it when he picks it up. It's hooked on my waist pack. He was actually pulling me back down the hill. It freaked me out a little bit because I didn't think he knew that he was attached to me, but he did. And of course, you know, the friends in front of us are just spraying us. And I thought it would be really smart to put my goggles on now, but Yeah, a lot of good that did me with this kind of timing, huh? Got myself in a spot in the bottlenecks where nobody could pass me. I just hung out and waited until everybody had cleared some space on the obstacle in front of me, and we're actually going to switch to Griffin's point of view for this one. We came out onto this other bottleneck to the right of me, and I decided I wanted to try and go around by going over this ledge, and I had zero run up. There's a cliff behind me on the rear tire, but I just went for it, and I was feeling so good at this point. Then I started having more bike problems. That's right, bike problems. Since my camera broke, I don't have any cool videos to share with you, but basically I started bogging on the hill climbs, and I went to go cross this. It was an uphill climb with a big old ledge at the top. The bike died once my rear tire hit it, and it wouldn't start, like it was all fouled up. And I saw Jenny Kreller at the top of the hill, and I shouted at her, I'm like, something's wrong with my bike, but I'm going to keep trying. And I made it to the top of the hill where she was standing, and the bike just died, would not start. I sat there for an hour and a half. It was just pouring gas. Tore the whole carb apart, put it back together on the trails, and I still couldn't get the bike to run. And then an hour and a half later, after all of this wrenching, it finally just kicked over for some reason. I imagine just all that gas evaporated out of the head. Finally got it to start again, and I limped it to test 1. And once I got to test 1, they were like, keep going. You've only got a mile left. I was like, I really don't want this to happen again if it does happen. And sure enough, I made it to the bottom of the final hill climb, and the bike turned its final crank. The battery died. It actually ran out of gas, so that was pretty much the end of my race. And Matt Musgrove and Travis, I don't know his last name or his Instagram, those two came and saved me along with Josh from US Hard Enduro, and we got the bike back. I called Gerald from Upstate Cycles while I was out on the trail, and we kind of came to the conclusion of just doing a complete carb and TPS swap with the X-Trainer to see if that was the issue. With a brand new carburetor and a TPS calibrated to that carburetor, the bike was still running like total garbage. So I called Mad Bro and I was just like, please help, please. So they got me in after close to do an emergency oil injection delete kit, since I put a brand new spark plug in to test it with this carburetor and TPS, and with 10 minutes of runtime, it was just soaked in oil. So we completely removed the oil injection system, and we got me squared away. 7 p.m. Friday night, ready for the race. Saturday morning, we're here. We're gonna race it. We're gonna do our best. And honestly, I had zero confidence in the bike at this point. My hands were so blistered from having to push the bike so much during the qualifier, but I just slapped some hydrocolloidal patches on there and I lined up for the race anyway. Broke my camera in the qualifier. Once again, we're gonna have to rely on other people's wonderful point of view footage. And by some miracle, Griffin and I managed to partner up for the first 3 tests of the race before catastrophe struck, but we'll get there when we get there. So for now, just enjoy the Sufferfest as I really try my best to just make it through the race. I really wanted to push the bike as far as I could go, knowing that it wasn't running at its best. We were here, and the bike at least rolled. Like, what's the worst that could happen at this point, right? So this is where Griffin managed to find me in test 1. I was feeling pretty good for about the first half of the test, and then I started feeling a little funky.
Oh, fuck.
Now, the language was a little uncalled for, but I was feeling pretty salty at this point. I hadn't made it very far. You can kind of see the pools of gas underneath where I'm rolling, especially as Griffin starts rolling forward. You can see some of the dots again, and I felt like the bike was really spluttery some more, and I was just really frustrated that I had come all this way and my bike was still running weird. And to be honest, I couldn't tell if it was all in my head or not. Like, at this point, I knew that I had zero confidence in my bike going into this race, and I can't tell if that's affecting how I'm riding or if the bike is still being weird. Like, I couldn't tell, and I was just getting so psyched out by everything that had happened.
All right, girl, let's get you straight though.
Very shortly after that, we found this killer ledge, which I know it doesn't look like much on camera, but it's at an angle, it's off camera, the entrance is really janky, and check this out, it's so tall this guy has to press himself up to get up to me. Like, look at that, we're talking at least chest height. Boom. Da, 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 boom. It was a process getting down. And I know what you're thinking. Catherine, why didn't you just send it? Let me show you what the pros looked like. This clip came from the US Hard Enduro Moab recap video, but look at this. Super janky setup. Everything's covered in sand, and you have to basically dead stop because you've got a second drop right after it into a rock canyon. And if you mess this up, there's actually another split and some like canyon slots that you get launched into. it was not good for like where my head was at, the confidence with the bike. None of it was a good spot for me at that time. So we went through this whole process instead, which was equally not as awesome. But I think I'm beginning to understand what hard enduro racing is all about, because it's incredible how tight-knit we all became in such a short amount of time, short amount of distance, just in this singular event. Like, you would think it's racing. Why would you all stop and help each other? But somehow it like formed these connections. Now we're like bonded through the grit, if you will. I imagine that this is kind of similar to how the military bonds all of those gentlemen into the same platoon. Kind of a weird reference, but you get the point. We're in it together, you know? It's like survival at this point. Person for scale on how big this ledge actually is. I figure it's time to actually watch some real riding videos. Now, this isn't my best riding. I'm not necessarily very proud of it, but I am proud of the fact that I stuck it out through the race and I just kept going even when I really didn't want to, even when I wasn't really confident, even when I wasn't feeling it, I was tired. There were a lot of things happening throughout this race that were really just beating me down mentally and emotionally, physically. But frankly, that's what this is about, right? It's a hard enduro. It's not supposed to be easy. But there's an important piece of information I didn't tell you guys at the start of the video, and that is I actually got accidentally hit by another rider on Saturday, 7 days before this, and bruised my ribs. And so this crash right here, I just took the handlebars right to my ribs again, and at this point I told Griffin, just go without me. Like, I'm gonna need a minute, and I'm just holding you up at this point. So he took off without me, and shortly thereafter, catastrophe struck. I had a bad tip over, I cracked my case, and it pretty much just ended my race. I didn't realize that we were already 5 hours in, but I was just at the top of this obstacle. I had made it through this little shortcut this guy's gonna take right here. And just after that, I tipped over, punched a hole in my case, and called it a day. But at least I had some beautiful views. So then, when I finally got the tow back, I went to go load the X-Trainer in Mom's truck to take to Minnesota, and here's what happened. Yeah, so this has been a problem that I've been having with this X-Trainer since February, and we've done a lot to this bike in hopes of trying to fix it. It's got 2 different ECUs in it. We've done so much to this bike. Just check out the series, The Arizona Curse, I made last month. That will go in depth about everything we've done to this bike, but since it's not running, we've stuffed the van with every single bike possible to head home. I left a little extra on the end of this video because there's some unresolved questions, right? What's wrong with the X Pro? What's wrong with the X-Trainer? We've got a couple of leads on both bikes about what to do, so I left those in there for your entertainment. So lately, Ben's been making these crazy Starbucks coffees, and I've been dreaming of the day when I get to have a Starbucks coffee. Today's the day. So I forgot to take this video before I basically drank all of this, but training for all of these hard enduros, I actually quit drinking coffee and all forms of caffeine so that I could get a little more kick out of my caffeinated hydration mixes. So Ben's been making this like specialty Starbucks coffee for forever. And I was gonna make a, oh my god, this is amazing video, because this is the first time I get to drink coffee in the last 9 months, and it's pretty freaking amazing. But I got distracted by unloading the bikes because like a seal went out on the X-Trainer or something. So it's also leaking oil. Yep, you heard that right. The X-Trainer is also leaking oil, and it's not just engine oil, but also oil injection fluid. So when I unloaded the bike overnight, right, it had settled here in Mojave. So the elevation change from Moab was like 5,600 feet down to 2,500 feet in elevation. And not only did the oil injection pump explode, but also the seal between the clutch cover and the actual engine case. So like the black and the silver part of the engine also exploded, which is why you see that big old oil pan down there. So I called the upstate and I gave them the update on the fact that this also happened. And is it a coincidence with the electronical issues that are happening? I don't necessarily know, because this is mechanical for sure. But they did take a note, and they do find it interesting that we're building up pressure in the engine. On an unrelated note, Sam actually saw a video of somebody's KTM doing the same thing where it only idles and then it dies on throttle, and it turned out to be their reeds. So I went ahead and pulled the reeds out of the X-Trainer while we were waiting to hear back from Upstate to see what they said. And unfortunately, they look beautiful except for this weird little white spot, but there's no cracks or splinters or anything, no like big chunks missing that we could see. We shined a flashlight in there and they look great. So after that rigorous inspection, we went ahead and pulled the X Pro out of the van to give it a gander and see if we couldn't figure out what the heck was going on with it, and see if we can't get it running right.
Takes too long. Weird. What's wrong with that? That seems like it's hangs up there, like ring, tin, 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 tin. You know, like what's the deal with that? You know, the idle's hot. This feels good right here. Other than the idle's hot. Should bring the idle down more.
Yep, you heard that right. A high idle set from the dealer in hopes that it would fix the spark plug fouling issue that I was having. So we adjusted the idle. We also messed with the clutch lever a little bit since Nick was saying that it was dying in certain places really easy from the clutch engagement. So we made a couple of adjustments on the bike. I took it out to Johnson Valley to practice some hill climbs and also some gnarly sections and made it through the day without any issues. I definitely think the bike is still bogging a little bit, but it did pretty well beating these boys up Chocolate Thunder, so I think the bike is doing just fine as long as I intentionally clear out the spark plug. I think I just need to ride this X Pro and get confident on it again. But that's all for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that jazz. It helps keep me motivated to make more Fun Guy reality TV, and I'll see you on the next one.